Welcome, RoundTable Family, to another exciting episode of the Sports Roundtable Trio Edition, your favorite sports podcast out there, of course. I'm your host, Rowdy, joined by little bro Coop and big boy. How are we doing, boys?
Good, man. We're three people away from 1,000. Let's get that done for us, please, fans. Tell 10 people and tell them to tell 10 people.
For sure.
Or two, whatever you want to tell them. I mean, just whatever. It's all good.
We hope you enjoyed Tuesdays on the Edge. Make sure you tune into that for our reactions from the semifinal playoff games. A lot went down, but we're going to talk about the national championship game coming up here shortly. We're going to give you our NCAA pick record from throughout the year. That's a good one. That's going to be coming first here in the next couple minutes. Then we're going to go over, we had a chance, me and Coop did, obviously big boy,
working a real job,
I got a real job, yeah. So
me and Coop had the chance to go over and see Eric Henry in person. So we're going to have that interview and our new segment called Figuring Out the 40, where we're just going to talk all things Texas when it comes to the rest of this year while football season dies down. And then, of course, Kobe's going to be coming on for Kobe's Locks, all the NFL action you want. And then we got a couple other special things when it comes to Texas basketball, and then looking ahead to 2024 to the top SEC quarterbacks in our minds, each of our own. So, but without further ado, the NCAA records coming in third place.
And I have no idea. So
Big boy has no idea. Coming in third place at 77, 79, and 4 is Big Boy.
Okay.
Almost 500. It's not bad, big boy. Almost 500.
Almost.
He's not happy. Coming
I'm
in
not.
second at 79, 77, and 4 is Rowdy.
Hold on, what was I?
77, 79. I was 79, 77.
Oh, okay, I was about to say it sounded the same. Okay.
Two
Not
game
bad.
difference there. And then that leaves none other than Little Coop with a record of 87, 69, and 4. Boys.
Congratulations.
You listen to me, you want money. Big boy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he's
We'll see if he gets his get back on NFL.
We'll talk about that NFL next week. We got some picks later for you in the show, of course.
Congratulations, Cooper.
Thanks, big boy. Thanks.
Looking at our last college football game of the year. Sad times, guys. Sad times. But it's none other than the national championship Monday night. And it's the Michigan Wolverines versus the Washington Huskies. Real quick, we're going to not spend too much time on it, but we're going to go over, kind of give you our quick thoughts and who we think is going to win. You'll see it later in the show. Eric's thoughts on who he thinks is going to win as well. So, big boy, we'll throw it over to you first.
I like Michigan. The 5 points, that's what it was when I saw it last. I don't know. That might be a little too many because I think Michigan is going to do what, in second glance at the game that we played, should have done more of. And I think Sark wanted to. They wouldn't have fumbled, is run the ball. And Michigan will literally run the ball 60 times if that's what the game plan is. So I think they're going to keep Penix off the field. I think he's going to get his when he is in there, but I think they're going to really slow that game down. I love the under. I think last time I saw it was 55. So that's a lot. And I think Michigan is definitely going to run the ball a lot. And I told you last week I love Blake Corum. I think he's a dog, and I think him and the O-line get that done.
Yeah, like you said, big boy, Michigan can run the ball, man. And as we saw with Texas, Baxter was averaging like 9 yards a carry going into like the fourth quarter. I don't know what he finished with, but
they averaged 6.5 as a team. I know that.
Yeah, so whoever can run the ball in the game, I think always has the upper hand. But hey, Washington, Michael Penix Jr., man, you can't take anything away from him as much as it hurts to say. he's freaking him, man.
He is.
Good, and he's playing his best ball right now too. So it should be an interesting one. I think Michigan defense held Milroe really well, contained him really well. And I think they find a way to do that to Penix just somehow. And I think they pull out the defensive battle, like Big Boy said, the unders, and they get it done.
Well,
Penix is not, just remember, Milroe is not Penix. Not at this point in his career at all. So.
But as far as like locking down the quarterback and figuring out how to contain the quarterback.
Yeah.
Michigan's I mean, they've been legit all year. But if you've been following us since we started this journey back in middle of September, end of September, we were big fans of Washington. I'm not going to lie. About week 5, right, we kind of started that hype train of, if we would have had a big name for ourselves, people would have been giving us the credit for throwing Michael Penix up there on the Heisman board type early stuff in the season, and Washington as a top team. And I've been on them all year up until the last couple of weeks. I, let the best of the social media get the best of me and lose some faith in the Huskies. But after what they did last week and what Penix did, man, I hope for them that they win because they just keep getting doubted, right? They're underdogs again, right? ESPN FBI's got them way underdogs in there too. I would love nothing more than for Penix to go out his last game. And if for some reason people don't have him as a first-round quarterback right now, this game is going to allow him to be that first-round guy, the top 4 quarterbacks taken, and there's no reason why like a J.J. McCarthy should be taking over him at this point. J.J. McCarthy's not going to outplay Michael Penix in this game. It's not going to happen. The only way, like you said, if Michigan is going to win, it's going to be because of the run game. They're going to stick with it like they have all year, and then their defense is going to create enough stops or get Michael Penix uncomfortable enough to where they can win the game. But I'm going to go with the hot hand Washington Huskies. I think they're going to be able to do it. I think Texas's running game, the ones that they did show and did do, kind of gave Washington a good preview of what's to come with Michigan, some sort, you could say. So I think personally they're going to come out ready to play, and I see Penix have another big game. So
I think it's going to be a good game. I do. I just think Michigan kind of keeps them off the field more than Texas did.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
No doubt. But we'll make sure we'll be tuned into that. And, of course, we'll talk about that next week. I know Coop will not be with us on Tuesdays on the Edge next week, so it's still to find out if me and Big Boy will be running the helm for Tuesday on the Edge. But
where are you going?
He's going back to school.
Driving back to school. I got school the next day, man.
They don't have internet in Lubbock. I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly.
The mouses, all the mice that run the wheels, they ain't gonna be back.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I won't be at that one.
We'll make sure if we do, of course, have Tuesday on the Edge, we'll be talking about that. If not, we'll talk about it next Friday on the Sports Roundtable Trio Edition, of course. But coming up right now, we mentioned it earlier, is going to be our new segment called Figuring Out the 40. Little background behind that before we throw it over to our interview with Eric Henry over at Horns 24/7. Is Figuring Out the 40 is going to be our new segment, 10 to 20 minutes every episode, talking about the latest with Texas football, whether it's recruiting, transfer portal, spring ball. That's going to be here before we know it, right, guys? Any updates when it comes to the team. But then, of course, we're going to use that to talk about Texas basketball. We're going to mention some of that later as well, but we're going to really start diving into some Texas basketball, guys and girls. The girls are playing just as good as the guys are, right? And then, of course, once baseball season gets around, we'll use that time for that. But we're going to go over to our interview right now with Eric Henry at Horns 24/7. All right, joining us now in person, finally, is the man, senior writer over at Horns 24/7, Eric Henry. How are we doing, man?
I'm doing all right. First off, for the audience, hey, I'm not this short. We're kind of on the level here, right? The fellas up here on Barstool at my place, and I'm in my office here. So I promise I'm not this short. But outside of that, I'm doing all right. You guys came by to drop off the hoodies. So I appreciate it, especially with, being a Floridian, I'm having to get used to like the changes in climate. I'm used to December time, January time, it's just 65 outside, 70. So that's been an adjustment. But man, I appreciate that y'all coming through and figure while we're here, let's talk about the end of the year.
No doubt. This is our new segment. Of course, we've had you on a couple of times, but what we're going to be calling now the football season kind of wrapping up. for everyone watching, it's going to be Figuring Out the 40. That is the new name of this segment every week. Nice little 10 to 20-minute segment every week, just talking about what's going on when it comes to Texas football. Of course, there's always going to be updates when it comes to that. We're recruiting, transfer portal, spring practice. I mean, that's going to be here before we know it, honestly. And then, of course, basketball once baseball gets going as well. But while we're here with Eric, we're going to wrap up this 2023 season. And, man, it was a good one for the team, for the Horns. It was much needed. But looking back at it, right, just lost that game to Washington, of course. A heartbreaking game, came down to the wire. But what are your thoughts on kind of what went wrong against Washington and kind of just your closing thoughts on the season as a whole?
Well, what went wrong, guys, was Michael Penix Jr. faced a buzzsaw in Michael Penix Jr. Here's the big thing, and it's funny how I pointed out to you guys, and I actually covered Michael Penix's first collegiate game in 2018 when he was at Indiana. That's just from my hometown, from my neighborhoods. I've seen Michael Penix play since the time he was 15 years old, and he's steadily grown. He's always been a good quarterback, but I think being up in the Pacific Northwest, we haven't seen a ton of him, right? You might catch a game here or there. You watch some games in preparation for the Texas game, but guys, it was known coming into this game how good he was against the blitz. I think that's one of the things that we asked Pete Kwiatkowski and Steve Sarkisian, when we had the opportunity to talk to him, is how do you generate pressure on this guy? Washington's a team that had the Joe Moore Award winning offensive line, which of course is given to the best offensive line in college football, only allowed 10 sacks. And we said, hey, how do you dial up pressure against it? A quarterback who statistically, not only just this year, guys, but over the past half decade, if you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, the advanced analytics show, he's been one of the top 10 quarterbacks against the blitz of any quarterback over the past half decade. They said we're going to try to pressure him with 4, but we saw early on that didn't happen. Third play of the game, they go with a delayed blitz. Jalen Ford, what do you see? 77-yard bomb downfield. I believe that was Jalen Polk is the one who hauled in that one. So when you say what went wrong, you got to go, if we're doing percentages, 70% Michael Penix. Then if we're splitting up the rest of it, the offense didn't really look in sync. And that's one of the things, Sark was asked his post game, said, hey, by Kirk Bowles, the Austin American statesman, do you think the 31-day layoff made a difference offensively? Because again, and we talked about it, guys, they were coming out of Texas Tech, coming out of Oklahoma State, playing their best offensive football of the year, seemingly, racking over 1,100 yards total offense. Whether or not that played the difference, or was Washington having a full month to game plan? Because again, this wasn't a great Washington defense, especially in the secondary, but they found a way to really limit Quinn Ewers. At one point in the game, only throwing for something like 80, 90 yards, but didn't have a great completion percentage. That efficiency that Quinn Ewers, the offense, had been moving with throughout the latter stages of the season, weren't able to get that. So that's 15%. And a combination of penalties and turnovers. There was that stretch where one drive just got nuked by 2, we can say phantom holds. I think one was on Jordan Winton, the other on Christian Jones. The one on Christian, maybe looks like he gets his hands outside of the pads, but the one against Jay Witt looked phantom to me in my mind, guys. So if we're breaking down 3 things, we're going 70% Michael Penix, 15% maybe the layoff affecting the offense, and the other 15% being, the penalties, and of course the turnovers, the 2 fumbles with Jaden Blue. Was it CJ Baxter, the other fumble as well? So there you go.
Yeah, I agree. No stopping Michael Penix, man. He got snubbed out of the Heisman. I've been saying it all year. But we just found out today, Jonathan Brooks, he's gone. What round do you see him going round-wise? And also, I counted today, we have 6 backs next year. Who do you think the top 3 backs will be?
Well, okay, it's funny. I'm the cheap plug here. I know you guys were on the way here, so I'm not going to fault if you hadn't read it, but go to horns247.com. I just wrote a piece. First off, shout out to our guy, Hank South, does a great job covering recruiting for us. He broke the news in conjunction with our own Chip Brown that Jonathan Brooks will be entering the NFL draft. That is the projection, as of from what I'm hearing from you guys and from others, that he's still rated as one of the top backs by Mel Kiper and others despite the injury. And take a look at JB, kind of a subtle explosiveness. That's the thing with him. I think early on, what gave CJ Baxter the edge in fall camp was the fact that if you look at CJ, guys, and if you ever have a chance to just be around him in person, first off, he's a great kid, awesome dude. But explosiveness, he looks like the same coming of Bijan, just size-wise, explosiveness. Those are things that jump out to you. But JB, it's that steady explosiveness. See, if Jonathan Brooks can go in the combine and run anything sub 4.6 in that mid 4.5 range, that at least validates that he has the foot speed, the track speed, because you've already seen the football speed on field in pads, right? If you get that going, I don't see any reason why. Again, I think the injury may hurt him a little bit, but I don't see any reason why he can't be a late first, again, this is all depending on testing, but a late first round, maybe a day 2 guy. I mean, if JV slides into round 3, you're getting a steal. But again, in terms of your question, as far as the guys after him, I just wrote a accompanying piece of Hank's reporting where I talked about, listen, you got 1,130 yards rushing from reserves in, well, CJ started the year as a starter, ended the year as a starter, but the bulk of the season was as a reserve. You got him, Jaden Blue guys. You know, you guys have been around these parts much longer than I have. I'm hearing comparisons to, you know, being, you know, like some of the backs of Texas past in terms of being explosive, but not necessarily getting that starting time, but just being that guy who is the guy behind the guy, right? And he rushed for 380 something yards this year, had the longest run of the year for Texas, and 69-yard touchdown run against, or 69-yard run against Texas Tech. And also, when I spoke with Tashard Choice during open availability, he's really high on Trey White. You know, we've seen him make an impact on special teams, be down there, kind of that second coming of Roshan Johnson. I think that's the role that they're looking for him to fill as well. So those 3 guys, and then of course, we'll see what happens with Savion Red, you know, if he's a part of this roster next year. It hasn't indicated that'll be in the portal, but of course, we got to take a look at things, you know, see how spring camp works out. And then the 2 freshmen, Jared Gibson and Christian Clark. So you know, that combination of guys, I think, leaves Texas with a lot of depth in the room. But the 3 guys in my mind are CJ, Jaden Blue, and then also Trey White.
I like it, man. Weisner is I mean, he's a stud, right? He balled out on special teams, balled out when he got the chance against Tech. And like you said, kind of about Red, I feel like that room may have some attrition when it comes to after spring ball when those 2 freshmen do get in, right? Both early enrollees. But I mean, give it the choice, man. You just keep loading that room up and up. Everyone thought there may be drop off once Stan Drayton left for Temple, but man, Choice has not skipped a beat with that room. Kind of looking at it, you kind of just mentioned Red, obviously. Maybe we'll see how the spring goes. But kind of just portal update on kind of positions you think Texas is still kind of go after with what's still available right now. Obviously, maybe another wave after spring ball happens. And then any guys that we're expecting to enter the portal. I know it's closing in the next couple of days.
Well, I mean, you got that first window, but of course, you got the next window after spring. I think that, in my mind, Texas is solid for right now. I don't see anyone else with the way this roster is constructed. Again, it would take, you know, some late addition, but the way the roster is constructed now, I think the portal as far as guys exiting is kind of closed. You know, I would take a look at receiver again. I know everyone's throwing out the Evan Stewart thing, and I haven't seen any legs of that just yet. Guys, Matt Golden, you take a look at his numbers. Hey, he was a 4-star recruit at Houston, so a very talented guy, but someone who really studied under Tank Dell and performed really well as a freshman. You know, his overall counting stats kind of dipped off as a sophomore, but that's because you don't have a guy like Tank Dell on the other side. So I think he's going to be a nice addition, but you can take a look at the receiver room. I guess the big thing you got to look at is quarterback, right? You know, for all intents and purposes, everything we're hearing is that Quinn Ewers will return to Austin for another year. I think the big thing, and I talked about it with you guys on a few podcasts ago, was he'd have to have a great college football playoff to really consider making that jump. Obviously, you know, he had kind of a so-so game, so we think he's going to be back. With that, that probably closes out any possibility of going to get a quarterback, right? Because you got Arch in tow, you got Quinn Ewers, you got Charles Wright, you got Trey Owens coming in. There's your 4, and then of course whatever walk-ons you may have. So with that, you know, I think possibly interior defensive line, but the guys, the staff are really high on some of the guys they brought in. You know, DeAndre Robinson from Orlando, Jones High School being one of them. So we'll see what happens. I think with Tavondre being gone, Byron Murphy being gone, Alfred Collins coming back, right? So that makes a big difference. And, you know, you've got him, Vernon Broughton, and possibly Trillo Carter as well. So that would be a thing. So I think right now the roster is kind of set, and we'll see what happens after spring.
For sure. And, you know, you kind of hit on it a little bit, but seeing those goodbyes, man, on top, you know, Jordan Winton posted one, Worthy posted one really early. I was like, well, he had that ready. But do you see any guys staying that are expected to leave or no? Yeah, draft wise.
So you're saying players who would stay who possibly could get drafted?
Yes.
Off the top, well, I mean, AC just based off measurables is a guy who probably, if you take a look at Moro Ojimo and Keandre Coburn, AC measurable wise, they probably test better than both of these guys. So that alone, you're probably looking at a 5th, 6th, 7th round guy. Ryan Watts is tough because I still think Ryan Watts did not have a bad game. Beckle Penning sisters, great throws. All right. So, but Ryan Watts is a guy who I think would get drafted. The NFL's in love with tall, long cornerbacks, right? And he's a guy who fits that mold. I'm off the top of my head. I think A.D. Mitchell is gone. But he obviously, if he chooses to come back, and I don't think it's any secret at this point, his personal situation, having a daughter, I think, he's probably going to go, but he's someone else who would get drafted. Just take a look at someone else. I guess JT is another big name, but JT, that's one that I think is 50-50. Generally don't have a feel from JT either way, right? And he's someone who, again, just based on the testing numbers, probably going to be a second or third round pick. Obviously from Georgia, Brock Bowers is the #1 tight end, but those are a handful of guys. Byron Murphy's a lot. In my mind, premium interior defensive tackle. He's gone, but those would be guys off the top of my head who make that down.
What do you, real quick before we go to the next one? I know David Binda is kind of a big name out there that could potentially weigh his options, whether it's grad. You believe he still has his grad year left with COVID. So, do you think that's kind of one where you kind of see maybe he decides to come back, even with the very young linebacker talented room, right? Bunch of talented young guys in there, or do you kind of see one where they kind of go their separate ways from that?
That one is interesting, right? Because again, Bender could come back, but the thing is this: you got Leon LaFau coming up, right? And for what we're hearing, guys, is LaFau actually isn't the heir apparent to Jalen Ford on the inside. He may actually be shifted outside, and they kind of want to get Anthony Hill out of playing in space and shift him inside. Which you just look at size and measurable. Again, he's got all the ability and would be like no disrespect to Jalen is one of my favorite guys, but in terms of athletic ability, maybe a Jalen Ford on steroids, right? So the question is, then where's Bender play? Because Mo Blackwell is a guy who I think performed well in his time. And the thing that Mo brings that Bender doesn't is Mo was
The speed.
boom, you nailed it. He's a guy who was a safety, so can play in space and play those nickel packages. So we'll have to see what happens there.
No doubt. Well, looking ahead, obviously, you can never look too early ahead to 2024, the season this coming fall. First year into the SEC. Your own opinion, we've kind of talked about it. Who are 3 guys currently on the team that you think need to take the biggest jump for Texas to kind of have their same success they had this year?
I'll start with Jonte Cook. It's not to even say that Jonte needs to take a jump as much as Steve Sarkisian said that he was kicking himself for not getting Jonte Cook involved in the game plan more against Oklahoma. There's no doubt that had this receiver room not been as veteran as it was, Jonte would have seen more time. Not that he needs to do anything differently than he's doing, as much as if he just his natural progression evolves, he's going to be that guy who replaces X, right? Him, Matt Golden. You need to have, kind of a stable of receivers for Quinn or whoever's the quarterback, but likely Quinn. I would say CJ Baxter. The big thing that I want to see from CJ is the ability to force missed tackles. I don't know if I've talked about this on your guys' podcast or not, but the biggest thing that's really separated Jonathan Brooks from CJ was the ability to make the first man miss. And to be a running back at this level, you have to do that. JB led the nation in forced missed tackles. CJ Baxter kind of picking up a little bit. He's still someone who's kind of, for his size, still looking to be a little more elusive. I think CJ just needs to, be one cut and go. And he talked about that after the Iowa State game. And on the defensive side, let's go with AC. Listen, we know what the presence of T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy were for the entire defense this year. If AC makes that next jump, and I had a great conversation with Bo Davis who said that, hey, pass rush is the next thing with AC. He's a good run stuffer, but he just takes the natural progression naturally as a pass rusher. That's going to make all the difference in the world. So those would be 3 guys off the top of my head. I guess throw out another one. Terrence Brooks and Manny Muhammad, although Manny played well this year, and Terrence Brooks as well, if you do lose a Ryan Watts, you need those guys to naturally progress.
Before you go, I got one. Kind of mentioned Bo Davis. Last couple off seasons, there's been always the smoke of him going back to LSU for that D line. Thoughts on, do you think if he's going to be able to stay? You got to feel like if Alfred Collins is coming back, that he pretty much knows that Bo Davis is going to come back, and that's money making here, right? He doesn't want to play for a new D-line coach, but thoughts on that?
Yeah, listen, I'll be honest with you. The Horns 24/7 crew probably isn't even in alignment as far as, or I shouldn't say not in alignment, but everyone kind of has a different feel, a different, hearing different things on what Bo Davis may or may not do, right? He hasn't commented publicly, but I'm leaning to what you just said, which is AC. Listen, when I asked AC about Bo Davis, he said, the man means the world to me. I'd give the shirt off my back for him. You're not coming back to Texas. And not that Sark isn't, someone they buy in as well, but you're not coming back to Texas in my mind if that guy is not going to be the one leading you there. And again, I'll cheap plug point an article I wrote on the website about Bo Davis getting the natural progression. You take a look, 2021, Keandre Coburn, Moro Ojimo, got those guys to progress. They go on the NFL. This year, Devondre Sweat, Byron Murphy. You have to feel that this year or next year, it's going to be AC and Vernon Broughton. So yeah, my expectation is he'll be back. But listen, in this coaching, there's a lot of checks to be cut, and let's see what happens. There's no shortage of money here in Texas. So
we touched on it a little bit, but assuming he comes back, what do you take away from Quinn's performance this year, and what do you expect from him next year if he comes back?
The biggest thing I think with Quinn is he has a better sense of self, right? Quinn said that in his freshman year is probably trying to play hero ball a little too much, force the issue downfield. Quinn likes to use this phrase that you can't go broke taking a profit, right? So that's just getting something underneath. What I think is going to be interesting, and this is where I think is the interesting merge between Quinn's progression and experience this year versus or with the talent that's coming back next year. So you don't have an X, you don't have a Jay Witt, you don't have an AD Mitchell, right? Or at least I'm assuming you're not going to have an AD. There's going to have to be a merging between Quinn upping his play and really, he doesn't have those safety nets, those reliable playmakers to lean on, right? So it's going to merging of him taking his game to the next level in conjunction with some of these younger receivers and a guy like Matt Golden who's sort of growing in his career. But if you ask me, just the biggest thing with Quinn is I think just learning to, take what's there. I mean, the guy was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in college football. And really quick, I don't know if you guys have thoughts on this, but, there was the conversation Cam Newton was talking about game managers a couple of weeks ago, right? Let's not confuse what a game manager is versus like just a guy. Brock Purdy's a game manager, right? But there's nothing wrong with that. Like he's still making the plays that are there. We're not talking about like I can't think of a subpar quarterback off the top of my head against outside of Trent Dilfer, right? That's usually the name. And as someone who's from Tampa, I can tell you, Trent Dilfer was not a game manager. Trent Dilfer was just don't mess this up, right? There's a difference between that and a game manager. So there's nothing wrong with Quinn if he just builds on some of the things he has and getting on the quarterback tutelage of AJ Milgram and Steve Sarkisian, that offense will certainly help him do that.
No doubt. Well, man, we appreciate, of course, Eric from Horns 24/7 coming on. We got a couple more questions for him. And while we're filming, I did get the notification that Byron Murphy just posted on Twitter that he is now leaving Texas to go to the NFL draft as well.
So while you're doing that, I'm gonna check my phone to make sure I haven't, missed any notifications too, because I'm probably about to write an article here in a second. Go ahead, fellas.
Well, kind of thoughts. Obviously, the starting line is going to be returning a lot next year. Jones, the most noticeable that's going to be leaving that O line, unless some attrition happens after that spring ball, of course. But with Jones leaving, got a bunch of young dudes in the helm waiting to kind of come up. What do you think? Kind of that's main rotation. They don't really rotate, but that starting O line is going to be. Who do you think? Do you think Cam Williams is kind of that fit in for that right tackle position? Or what?
My man, I was a bad guest here. What was the first part of your question? I'm sorry, I was catching up. I think the gist of the question was, what's the offensive line look like next year? Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. Again, I trying to make sure the whole team's on the same page as far as the Murphy news. You mentioned Cam Williams. It is going to be interesting, right? Because obviously you have a right tackle spot with Christian Jones, who we're going to see what happens there, right? Yeah, Cam Williams. Trevor Gooseby is a guy who has made a My Farm system of a top 10 ranking of players each year. I think that's something to keep an eye on. That could be interesting, but it's almost hard to speak affirmingly right now because we haven't gotten to spring just yet. But I would say between Cam and Trevor Gooseby, and then there's some other, take a look like a Peyton Kirkland. It's a guy who probably needs to progress. Maybe he might not be ready next year, but that's someone who it's really going to depend on the spring. And I can't overstate this enough. Guys really have an opportunity to propel themselves into the conversation with solid spring.
Oh, too deep for sure. And with the O line that's coming in too. There's some dudes coming in on that O line that obviously 5-star out of Cali and modern day. Brandon Baker's coming in to play tackle, right? Sark mentioned it. Your appearance kind of looks like Kelvin Banks when he watched his high school film. But before we get out of here, and we'll ask Coop the question too. When you kind of see that main rotation, like Sark likes his 3 guys, maybe 4 guys at the wide receiver position. real quick before we go over to Eric, who do you think those 3 or 4 guys kind of going to be?
For sure, you got Cook, which is, in my opinion, just as good as X. He's going to be just as good as X. You heard it here first. Number 2, you got to go Ryan Wingo. He's a good fit there. And then I hope AD stays. You know, if so, if not. Yeah. And then I really hope JT stays as well. You know, that would be a huge success, because coming from a defensive person, there is not a lot of ways you can stop on JT Sanders. So he's a big part of our offense, in my opinion.
No doubt. We're going over to Eric now. So we talked about it a lot. I mean, Sark loves just those 3 guys. If he can have them 4, maybe. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the 4 are Jonte Cook, Ryan Wingo, Matthew Golden, and DeAndre Moore. DeAndre Moore is someone who, if you take a look as far as freshman, the next snaps in the rotation, he saw 14 snaps in the slot. So I think it's not even as much who the guys are, it's figuring out where they are and which one is going to be. If you look at X, and I wrote about this, he played on the outside, but also lined up a fair amount in the slot, right? Can Jonte be that guy? Jonte also did a little bit of both this year. Does DeAndre Moore, who played 14 pass snaps, a little bit more than that, or overall offensive snaps, played 14 pass snaps, all in the slot. Is he a natural guy in the slot? You take a look at that, because for me, I think Ryan Wingo's an outside guy. I think some people have talked about him in the slot. I think he's an outside guy. And Matt Golden's another one who's been a little bit of both. You know, when Tank Dell left, he slid more into the slot in Houston, but he can do a little bit of both. So I think the key is not necessarily who, it's just where they're going to fit in the offense.
I think, I think especially with the slot when it comes to DeAndre Moore, and even Ryan Niblett can be a dude that can.
That's another bit, no doubt.
With a good spring, can do that. Well, before we get out of here, obviously we know Texas is not in the national championship. You got Michigan and Washington. Who do you got winning?
Oh, that it's funny. I was on AM 1300. I know you guys had Mike Harge
yeah.
on. Shout out to the brother Harge.
Yeah.
They asked me that question, and I said that I was leaning towards Michigan. But even after I got off the air, I was like, Michael Penix is riding a heater right now. And, you know, I just, and here's the thing, we take a look at Michigan. They didn't overwhelm Bama. It just as much as like, they were like, okay, we just can't lose. This wasn't the Bama of you know, yesteryear, right? The fact that they even pushed that game to overtime was more kudos to them than anything else. But they didn't overwhelm Bama. I don't see any reason why. The big thing that gives me pause with Washington again is that secondary. There's a big difference between having a month to prepare for a game versus having 7 days. So that's the thing. And also Dylan Johnson, right? We got to see what's up with that. I have not heard an update since.
I think the only thing I saw, I think the coach had a press conference, I want to say yesterday, or media availability, and they said that they're expecting him to be able to be good to go. But, you know, those dudes aren't going to miss that game. If they can be 70%, you'll play. They're not missing their national championship games. So
there you go. So if I'm picking right now, I'm still going to stay with that Michigan pick, but I don't see any reason why Michael Penix can't have another outstanding game like he did against.
And I hope he does. For our sake, I hope he does.
Well, you heard it here first from Eric Henry over at Horn 24/7. Make sure y'all are tuning in over there. A lot of good stuff going up. It's never too early to get started on reading all the 2024 action, spring ball, and of course the season's gonna be here before we know it. This one flew by, guys. So, but we appreciate you coming on, man, once again, and allow us to come in person down here in Austin to do it.
Anytime.
Appreciate it. All right. That was Eric Henry in person with us, man, today. That was
fantastic, man.
Great guy, man. Great guy.
And going down there to Austin, to hit him welcoming us in to his place to be able to do a little segment with us today. Well, when they're still busy, man, right? They still got dudes declaring for the draft. But he had a lot of good stuff to say. I know Big Boy hasn't got to see it yet, so I'm sure Big Boy will be glad to go back and watch that. But we appreciate him coming on and giving us all the intel. But with that being said, it is now time for the top SEC quarterback list for next year. We got 10 guys by the name of, let's see, who are our 10? The 10 guys we got are Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Brady Cook, Nico Amalivia, however you say that last name, Garrett Nussermeyer, I think is how you say that, from LSU, Graham Mertz from Florida, Connor Weinman from A&M, and then Jackson Arnold from OU. Those are the 10 quarterbacks we're going to be going. And let's throw it over to the big boy first. We'll go from 10 down to 1.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that, but I will start with Quinn. I believe he will win the Heisman next year. Saying it now, I think the third year in the system, I think Quinn is going to dominate. I think he's going to be a lot like Penix was this year. I like Jackson Dart, number 2. I really like him. I think what Lane Kiffin's doing over there is pretty impressive, man. I'll go Carson Beck, number 3. Self-explanatory. I mean, he's with Georgia. Jalen Milroe, I think he's coming up. I'm not 100% sold on him, like I said in that game when they played Michigan, but I do think he's very good. Brady Cook in Missouri, he proved what he could do this year. Then I'll go Connor Weigman. I think he's good. I think A&M is going to have a little bit of a bounce back. Then I'll go Jackson Arnold, I guess, for you because you're an OU fan and all that. Then I'll go Nico. Then I'll go Garrett.
All right.
And then Graham last. I still think Florida is going to struggle next year.
What? Billy Napier will be out of a job after this season. So
I'm kind of surprised he wasn't this year. So
yeah, just because it was year 3, it's kind of like the Tom Herman effect over there. So
yeah, but who knows? He might turn it around. I think he's a good coach, man. I don't know what happened, and they lost a lot of people too. So
they did. Cool.
All right, I'm gonna go from 10 down to 1. At number 10, I got Connor Wyman. A&M, not your year. Mike Elko, not your year. Connor is not the dude. So he's at 10. I got Graham Mertz for Florida. There's a bunch of people that are, leaving Florida, and Florida's gonna struggle, like we said. So I have him at 9. At 8, I got Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, that was good right there.
LSU, he has some big shoes to fill with Jaden Daniels. So we'll see about that there. Number 7, I got Nico. Not even gonna try to do it at Tennessee. And then I got Jackson Arnold at OU. He played pretty well in the bowl game. So he looked good.
how many interceptions did he have?
3.
Yeah, but second half looked good. He picked it up he was getting used to it, man.
Games is 2 halves, but okay. In that next,
Next, I got Brady Cook at 5. Missouri's an up and coming team, whether you want to believe it or not. I think he'll do pretty well there. At number 4, I got Carson Beck at Georgia. Meh is what I have to say about that. All right, here we go. Top 3. At number 3, I got our boy, Quinn Ewers. Quinn's improved a lot. He's improved a lot. Sark and him are clicking, but he's got to prove a little bit more to me. Not there quite yet. At number 2, almost number 1 for me. I'm a big fan of this kid. Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. He played great in the bowl game against, in my opinion, a top 5 defense in Penn State. So he played great. So he's at number 2. At number 1, we got Jalen Milroe from Alabama. He's clicking with that offense. Nick Saban and him are going to start clicking. And, he's improved the most in 1 season to me. So I'm going to go him at 1.
Like it. All right. Number 10, I'm going to go Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. I just think, like you mentioned, huge shoes to fill, a lot of pieces leaving LSU. He had his chance in the bowl game. Did not. I mean, they did come back and win that game, but was not a very good showing from him. So I think he's going to struggle. Number 9, I'm going to go Graham Mertz from Florida. Like we all mentioned, he had decent stats this year, but there's just not enough around him to make him the quarterback he could be. After that, I'm going to go Nico Amalivia. We're going to leave him at number 8 just because, one game to show for. Good game, though, against a good Iowa defense. So we'll see. I mean, I think he's the one that has the most potential out of all these new quarterbacks to really shoot up that board. Going next, though, we're going to go Brady Cook from Missouri. I think he's just up there at number 7 for me because I just don't see him. I think he's already at his potential. I don't really see him improving much over this next year. Then I'm going to go Connor Weinman at 6. I'm going to go Jackson Arnold at 5. And then I got Jackson Dart at 4. Not number 1 like you. I got him at number 2. Not number 2, but I got him at 4. I think he's a good quarterback. But I think he's just one of those things where he's kind of at his top potential too. I don't see him having much bigger of a year next year. 3, I got Jalen Milroe. I think he'll continue to improve. Top 2, I got number 2, I got Quinn Ewers. I think it's going to be big next year with a lot of unproven weapons at the wide receiver and tight end room. Obviously, plenty of talent there, but no proven stats or game reps when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'll like to see how he does with those guys. And then Carson Beck, I'm going to go at number 1. I just think with what he did at Georgia this year was impressive. And with them not having very many, honestly, top receivers like all these other top teams do, what he did, I think was very impressive. So that is our top 10 quarterbacks going into the SEC next year. But before we move on to Kobe's going to be joining us here in a little bit for Kobe's Locks of the Weekend. And then, of course, talk all the NFL action with us. We're going to talk a little bit about the Texas basketball team, guys. They start Big 12 play this Saturday against your very own Texas Tech Raiders at home. They are 11-2 on the year. Pretty good non-con, right? We talked about it with Eric a little bit with missing some of those key dudes. Both their losses come to top 10 ranked teams. Big boy, what do you got on?
Yeah, I mean, they beat Louisville, who's a name, Rice, if you want to throw it in there, and LSU. So everyone else is, I mean, it's just it's low-level schools. I'm excited for Texas. I've always thought that if they are going to look like a contender, it's going to be towards Big 12 play in the end of the season, because they just have to gel. A lot of those guys have never, most of them. I mean, there's 2 guys returning, and one of them doesn't even play really. They have a couple stretches starting at the end of January. They're at home against Baylor, at Oklahoma, at BYU, then home against Houston. That's a stretch. And I think that's when we'll see if they're going to be a contender. So they have about, a little less than a month to really get to that point. Dessou's back playing more. So I don't know. We'll see where they're at. Then at the end of the season, they also have a little jaunt like that. But that one right there at the end of January is going to be tough. So we'll see where they're at. I'm excited, man. I think they have a lot of young players that are exciting to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I'll piggyback kind of off of it. I had a little bit of stuff too. Couple positives, obviously, is probably the biggest one is Dylan Mitchell, right? Finally kind of stepping up into that role of being an offensive guy, but also really turning into a defensive player as well. That was kind of the emphasis all offseason, was being able to be a good big man down low when it comes onto the defensive glass, getting rebounds, being able to box out against those bigger guys who are a little bit bigger than him, but not as much athletic as him. So I think he's been really going. And then, of course, Max Absmith had a lot of hopes going into this year. Kind of started off, a little hit or miss, you could say, but it's really over the last 7 games, I think shooting just over 50% from the field. So he's really filling into his shoes, and then just the fact of only having 2 losses with Caden Cedric being out for a little bit, and then of course Dylan DeSue being out and still not even back into his full minute role. I think they're really going to be able to hit the stride right coming into Big 12 play.
I think Dylan Mitchell, though, I think he has a lot of room to grow on the offensive side, because he's averaging 30 minutes, which is pretty much the second highest on the team, but he's only averaging 11 points. So I do think he has room to grow there, but I like Tyrese and Max and Shedrick.
Oh, and then I think probably the biggest negative out of these non-con games, you could say, is the defensive side of the ball when it comes to the guard play, even off the guys from the bench. They've been giving up some points, and so that's a little scary whenever your shooters are off. It's not going to gel too well with you. You're not going to win very many low-scoring games with that. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing with this start into the Big 12. Like you said, if they can try and figure that out before that gauntlet of a run that they got at the end of January, but we're going to find
I like Weaver, man. I've told you that. He's scrappy, man. When I watched him play in that first game, I was like, oh, we got our new defensive guy, and he just hasn't got there yet.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, before Kobe joins us, we got one more thing, and it's some of y'all's favorite. We know it's Big Boy's favorite, and that is the Longhorns in the NFL.
Okay, here we go.
Kobe, what do you got?
All right, I got a pretty decent list here this week. First, I got Deshaun Elliott. He had 10 tackles, 7 solo, and 1 tackle for loss. Snacks, getting it. 5 tackles, 2 solo.
Where's he at now?
He was at, where was he? He's at, he got traded. He's not with the Chiefs anymore. He's with the Titans.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Cameron Dicker went 3 for 4 for field goals, long of 52. He should have been in the Pro Bowl. I know he got snubbed.
Biggest snub there is.
He should have got it just for that thing he did, the little skit or whatever. Little Jordan had 2 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. Excuse me. Rojo had 7 carries for 45 yards, but he had a touchdown. 3 receptions for 38 yards. So Rojo is starting to get in the mix more over there. Bijan, 15 carries, 75 yards, and 3 receptions for 11 yards. I wish he would get the ball 20 times and they could see what he could really do.
Yep.
And your guy, like I said, I don't agree with some of the things he does, but Charles Omenihu had 3 tackles, 2 solo, half sack, a tackle for loss, a QB hit, and a pass defended. We talked about that game, and he was all over there. He was causing havoc. Yep. And he was making, those plays that don't show up in the stat sheet too. He was really playing good there. But so that's my week, my Longhorns of the week.
Longhorns of the week, and we got a couple more weeks of them too until sadly that goes away for Big Boy. But before we go to Kobe, real quick, they are coming out with the Heisman Trophy odds already for next year. If you can't,
where's Quinn?
Quinn has
it's at the top.
Tied. There's 3 at the top with the same odds. It's Quinn, Jalen Milroe, and Carson Beck are all plus 750. So it sounds like you need to go play about 100 on it since you're so certain on that bet, huh?
Makes sense. Y'all are about to watch. Y'all are about to see.
But it's funny because out of all these dudes on here, almost every single one of them is an SEC quarterback. The only guys who are not on the SEC who's on this list is Dylan Gabriel at Oregon. He's 4th at plus 1,000. And then 5th is J.J. McCarthy at plus 1,800. And he is tied with Nico, Jackson Arnold, and Connor Wideman.
Wow.
So.
No running backs?
Not on that list. Nope. I'm sure there may be some in there. They probably just did quarterbacks only.
You see the Ole Miss running back enter the transfer portal? That's crazy.
Obviously, Will Howard going to Ohio State.
He's overrated. It's all right.
Agreed.
Well, we'll mention a couple of these other portals. There's been a couple things. Obviously, for Texas' sake, Byron Murphy gone, Xavier Worthy gone, Jonathan Brooks gone. We talked a little bit about all those with Eric, but those were all kind of expected. So we'll see what else the rest of the week brings. Those are going to start coming. They have to decide by January 12th, I believe. So, but right now we're going to go over to Kobe for Kobe's locks of the weekend. All right, joining us now is Kobe for Kobe's locks on the weekend and more now. NFL talk. We haven't even talked any NFL yet. We just save it all for you now. You are our Adam Schefter. That's what you are.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, just make sure those skull candies can hear us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man, hear us?
I can. I'm good, man. I was just making sure those earphones were good, man.
Oh, dude, they're fucking good, Ryan. Don't worry, buddy.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad
What's
those
up,
are.
boys?
How are you doing,
What's up,
Kobe?
Kobe?
Big weekend for your Texans, man.
Man,
Yeah, I'm on them.
it's the most important game we've had in a long time, dude. It's been years, man, since we've really had a game that actually means something. Yeah, dude, I can't wait. Scared because it's at the Colts, but I will say this: I love that we're favorites and it's at the Colts, and we already played the Colts and they stomped us, and we're favorites.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good sign.
Well, that will be the first game we talk about since we already got it up. If the Texans win, right, they clinch the AFC South title. That's all they need, just to win, and they get it. Or
Wow.
even if they don't win, just a Jacksonville loss.
No, so we have to win. Dude, turn on the fucking lights, Rick.
Yeah, so ESPN right here says Houston clinches the AFC title with Houston win or Jacksonville loss.
But if they lose, then the Colts need to
No.
Jacksonville to win.
We still need to
Or
win.
lose.
Because if we lose, then that means the Colts would beat us, which means the Colts would be AFC South champs. So we still need to win. Because if we lose, there's 2 or 3 other teams who would get in. So I don't think we get in if we lose.
So y'all have to win the division to make the playoffs.
No. We could win, but the Jags could win too, and the Jags still win it, but we would be in the playoffs still. So either we win it and the Jags lose and we're champs, or we win it and the Jags win, the Jags are champs, or if we win it and the Jags lose, they still have a shot. But there's a lot of things that could happen. So
For sure. And like we
Well,
said,
hey, man, I'll give you this. No matter what, y'all did a great job. I really thought y'all would win 3 or 4 games this year. So congratulations. I'm serious. I think a lot of people did.
our over under was 4.5.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. He did a great job coaching, man.
I
And
said
CJ did good.
I said it off season. I would not be surprised if the Texans made some type of run, dude. And we're a scrappy team.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a win all or lose all, essentially, for both teams in a way. But hey, when CJ plays, the Texans win, baby, most of the time.
Dude. He looked great too.
He has 3,800 yards on the season, 21 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, easily the rookie of the year. And if he didn't get hurt, I would have him up there with the MVP. But unfortunately, he missed a couple of times.
Calm down there, buddy.
And at the end of the day, no one thought the Texans would be 9-7. So, and that's all props to him and the coach. But on the flip side, I've been high on the Colts and Gardner Minshew, 3,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. To me, this game comes down to who wins the turnover battle, one, and who can force 3 in the red zone. Which defenses can force 3 points in the red zone will come out with the win in this game. Yeah, that's what I think.
I'm all over the Texans. Let's go.
Saturday night too. Saturday night game. Love it.
Man, it's a primetime game.
Yeah.
When's the last time the Texans were in a primetime game that had playoff implications?
When the masseuse was there, y'all had a couple of those, but
2017, yeah, 2018.
2018.
JJ and the masseuse. Yep.
JJ the masseuse.
When they beat the Bills in the playoffs. You remember?
I was at that game. Yes.
Really?
Crazy game.
Yep.
Well, speaking of the Bills, that is going to be our next game. It's a big one. The Bills versus the Dolphins, right? Bills in a situation, if they win the AFC East. They get the 2 seed. If they lose and some other teams win, they could not even make the playoffs. I mean, what kind of crazy shit is that?
That's insane, man. I think they win, man. Fred, I saw it was Bills -2.5, I think. I just think I saw Miami's probably going to sit Achane and sit Hill and just sit a few players. They're in the playoffs and don't really have much to play for, but the Bills still have a lot to play for, and I think they win here pretty big, dude.
And don't get it twisted either. The Bills are playing good ball right now.
Oh.
I mean, they got hot at the right time.
Yeah, I want to change my pick on our sheet. I did not know that Achane and Hill were not playing. Well,
Hill and Achane probably aren't playing, which means, I mean, they're probably going to be. And man,
then why not sit Tua? We're going to sit everybody. Let's just sit everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. But man, there's something about this team with the Dolphins, dude. They're starting to kind of regress in a bad way at the
downhill. Yeah, and
they're losing star players, man. They're losing a couple good players.
Chubb
on offense. Chubb. They lost other outside linebacker, that one freak.
The white boy.
The dude from Miami, I want to say. Young kid, but Jalen. I'm trying to think of his last name. I don't know, man. But just starting
Schefter. Come on, Schefter.
Yeah.
Just starting to look bad, starting to get hurt at the wrong possible time.
No doubt.
Sorry.
And they weren't playing the best either. I mean, they beat Dallas.
No, right.
So if ESPN
brought a whole season.
Yep. If ESPN's right, if the Bills lose, the way for them not to make the playoffs is if Pittsburgh wins and if Jacksonville wins.
Which definitely could happen.
Both of those could very well happen because Ravens sitting their guys, right?
I've got both of those teams.
Yep. So the Bills need to take care of their own business. They can't rely on those guys. That's for sure. Because that could be very interesting. There's a lot of big playoff implications on the line. A lot of seedings too.
I just love so much how since 2020 how they added an extra team, man. It just makes it so much freaking better. Ryan, I just realized that background, dude. Kind of lame. How about that loss, boys? So are we not gonna are we just gonna pretend like that?
We've already discussed it, but go ahead and talk about what you want to talk about. I like that lobster on your background. That's pretty cool.
Hey,
the 80-year-old woman. I mean, come on, man.
Hey, brother, it's a crawfish. Raising Cajuns, baby.
Yeah.
Raising
Yeah.
Cajuns. Who would beat y'all probably because y'all look that bad. Oh, fuck.
They fumbled twice, man. And one of them, they were going into
Yeah.
school. So
Hey,
you can say
brother.
whatever you want. You're LSU or Iowa or whatever team you're trying to pick this week didn't make it. So I guess now you're a Washington fan, so go Huskies. But are you on Michigan now or what? You saying, oh, I'm Big Ten. I'm going to stick with my Big Ten. What are you going to do? You can't say nothing. Just don't say anything and say, man, hey, they lost. Say it.
Listen, all I'm saying, Ryan, Michael Penix for Heisman. I've been saying it all year.
Well, he didn't win it. So, I mean, you can say it a million times, but he didn't win it. I mean, everybody wants to say that. He didn't win it. They had a contest and he lost. He's a great quarterback. The receivers are great, man. They outplayed Texas on that night for sure.
Man,
All respect and props to him. He's cold.
Sorry. Off topic. I'll go back to pro. I know it's a really sore subject.
I'm over it, brother. I'm over it. You know?
No, bro. No, trust me. I get it. Like it sucks. Yeah. So
yeah.
We'll go back over to the pro, like Kobe said.
You know what? I want to change my pick. The Colts are going to roll the Texans by 87 fucking points.
Oh man. Well, looking back at the NFL to one of course, Big Boys teams, not so much the big opponent this weekend, but a big game for themselves and to win the NFC East. And they got the Cowboys versus the Commanders, who are just brutal, but it is at the Commanders. Big boy, how are you feeling on that?
They better go roll. I mean, if they want to try to make any noise in this thing, they need to get hot. As hot as you can in one game. But, to me, they're still limping in the playoffs. And we'll see. We'll see what happens, Sunday. But they definitely have to win that game so they can have home field until, if they make it to play in San Francisco or whatever. But,
yeah.
I think they should roll.
I mean, the line's massive, 13, right?
Yeah, the line's 13. That's what I was going to say. I was on the Commanders. I think the Cowboys win this game, but I'm on the Commanders because the Cowboys are away, and we know Cowboys don't win away. But I think they're going to sneak by the Commanders, but not by 13. 13's a lot.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb might have 250 yards like that receiver did the other week against y'all.
We'll see about that.
Maybe we'll have one of those games like when the old guy that was a Cowboy had against the Texans, huh?
Man, just for y'all in that game, man, it's kind of a lose-lose. Like, if y'all lose that game, that's the worst loss at the worst time.
Oh,
right? If you win, it's like y'all still been playing pretty bad, and this win is against a terrible team, so it really doesn't mean anything going into the playoffs, even if y'all look really, really good.
It doesn't mean anything to us, but I think it does as a team if they're like, okay, we got back clicking. I mean, you're playing the Commanders, but at the same time, yeah, if they squeak it out or if they lose, I mean, they might as well call you the travel agents and get things ready,
It depends. I just don't know if Ron Rivera is the type of dude to have a team quit.
I think Ron Rivera's quitting. I think he knows he's done. And
you see, it came out earlier today that they're talking if the Falcons were to fire Arthur Smith if they lose this weekend. That one of the top candidates would be Eric.
The enemy?
Yeah.
He'd use Bijan.
Yeah, you would.
And he'd use Pitts.
Yeah.
What a fit that would be, but
yeah.
I think I think he stays for some reason.
Daddy's money. Come on.
Exactly. His dad, is the owner of FedEx or something. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think they beat the Saints this weekend to keep the Saints out the playoffs. Hot take. But I don't think that's the reason he stays. I just think more law,
Well,
which is absurd.
yeah, I mean, I think if the Falcons win to keep the Saints out of the playoffs, I don't think he's going anywhere, unfortunately, for Bijan's sake and the rest of that offense. But
Same. But picture Eric Enemy with that. Oh
Yeah. But still, who are they going to keep Ritter as their quarterback? I mean, what are they going to do with quarterback?
they got to draft one, bro. Like that's the thing. Like, because I mean, they could have a decent enough pick.
Get
They
Penix?
could trade get like a Penix late in like middle of the first round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Middle of the first round, or if you can trade up enough to get like Daniels, if you can trade up enough to get him. But if you don't want to trade up enough, you could try and get Penix mid first round. I don't know where they have him going right now, but there's no way he slides.
I think he's the third best quarterback, man.
Oh yeah, I just think everyone's sold on those top three of Drake Maine,
Daniels.
Caleb.
Caleb.
Yeah.
But then I mean you still got Daniels who could, or not Daniels, Penix who should go in the first. Some say McCarthy should go in the first. Some say Bo Nix should go in the first. Like, but
Bo Nix.
I
Bo
think-
Nix wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, I mean if
Because like they say, a lot of these old school NFL guys, they say the one thing you can't teach is accuracy. Everything else we feel we can teach, but accuracy is just something you have or you don't. Like, and Bo Nix does have that.
yeah, and I think Eric could make that offense kind of simplified for him, like how
Oh yeah,
Brock and San Fran. So I think it can kind of be the same situation. That can be pretty good. But speaking of quarterbacks, and speaking of, we kind of mentioned some of the guys who are sitting out this weekend. There's a lot of quarterbacks sitting out. Not only is there a lot hurt now, but there's a lot sitting out as well. And I know Coop's got something drawn up for us.
No, yeah, I don't know what y'all have to say about it, but looking as a fan, like if you purchased a ticket a while back, to a game and the star player, especially the star quarterback, sits out, you would be pissed. You're telling you cannot tell me Michael Jordan sat out anytime. Michael Jordan played when he was sick, when he was hurt, he didn't care.
Michael Jordan wasn't getting, rushed at by 330-pound linemen trying to kill him
that's
either.
not the point.
I mean, that is a big difference.
But that's not the point. He cared. He cared what the people thought. Okay. So, and that's what makes him the GOAT. So to me, sitting out and having stars sit out, that's the biggest bullshit I've ever heard in my life. So sorry, but I said it.
Well, why not just realize to not buy a ticket for the last
game?
But one's if you bought it in advance, So
well, you still know it's the last game.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Coop, but at the same time, these guys are making $40-50 million a year.
Exactly.
And do you think I'm going to risk my investment for some third string defensive end that's trying to make the team next year tears his ACL or something? Like, it's easier just to sit him, man.
I get that. But also, if you are getting paid $40-50 million a year, your ass better be playing then. So that's what I think.
Well, and I think it's too, like, kind of goes both ways, because then you have like your dudes, like if say Lamar hasn't carried away with that MVP race, I very well tell you like he would probably be wanting to play, right? So add those stats, and it comes to with the teams too. Sometimes the teams don't want some of these dudes to play so they don't hit their incentives.
Bonuses, yeah.
It's a big time of year for people to hit incentives. I know JJ Watt was talking about it the other day, but some of these quarterbacks who are starting this weekend, obviously because the guy's hurt or just because the guy's sitting out, you got Tyler Huntley, Sam Darnold, Blaine Gabbert, Jeff Driscoll, Carson Wentz, Nick Mullins, Trevor Siemian, Easton Stick, Tyrod Taylor, Sam Howell, Mason Rudolph, and then, of course, Jared Stidham.
That's ridiculous.
That's insane. It actually is. Just because the dude's hurt, and then you got, of course, the dude's sitting out too. But
wait a minute. What team is Blaine on?
what team is he on? Let me see. Let's pull it up real quick. I want to say the Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the Chiefs. Damn, I'm a genius. He's the backup for the
That's
Chiefs.
crazy. Still playing.
34 years old.
Yeah.
Blaine Gabbert's
I
a
don't-
dog, though. I don't care, man. Some of the stories they used to talk about him.
Well, and people are talking about because Kelsey's 16 yards away from some milestone. Let me see. Maybe I don't know what milestone it is. Oh, from another 1,000-yard season. He needs 16 yards. And
Is he playing?
yeah, oh yeah. You know,
So once he gets that, he's done.
yeah, he'll play and get that, and then be done. But
Man, is it just me or has it felt like he had like an off year?
Yeah, he hasn't had as good of a year as
oh
normal.
yeah,
And
I mean,
Still,
He was hurt too.
and he's
I-
gonna hit 1,000 still.
he's gonna hit, well, and I think it's just like kind of the media thing with making it seem like it's worse than it has been, just because not only have there been a lot more tight ends this year that have produced, right? There's usually not as many tight ends that are good, but you can say there's 10 solid tight ends this year who put up receiving numbers. But then you also think about how bad the Chiefs receivers and offense has been. Like those two don't.
So they're like, if we can stop Travis, we can,
Exactly.
we can
So,
stop
I
the
mean,
Chiefs.
and then of course you throw in the girlfriend aspect. So you have 3 different spotlights coming down too.
Don't be blaming T Swizzle on this, man. Come on. Let love be love, man. Why y'all gonna hate on love, man? Oh.
Well, before we get to Kobe's locks and our picks of the weekend, we got one more thing I wanted to talk about. Obviously, last regular season week of the NFL, and I want to hear everyone's final vote for league MVP. And we'll go Coop, Big Boy, Kobe, me. Coop, what do you got?
Offense or defense?
Offense.
Offense.
League MVP.
Started off, I've been saying it this whole time. Christian McCaffrey, okay, he got hurt this past week. He's still averaging 14, or he has 14 touchdowns, averaging a touchdown a game, even being hurt this next game. He has almost 1,500 yards in total, averaging 5.4 yards a carry in the NFL, guys. That's pretty remarkable. So that's my pick. I hope they give it to a guy other than a quarterback. They probably won't, but Christian McCaffrey.
Lamar, it's done. You can hope all you want. It's done. Lamar's winning it.
Yeah.
Kobe.
It's gonna be Lamar, but in my opinion, it should be either McCaffrey or Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
I think if he wouldn't have got hurt these last couple weeks and like not been banged up, he would have had a good shot to do it, man.
Yeah.
Tyreek.
Because he's the player that is most valuable to his team when he's on the field.
I don't know. I think Lamar probably would be.
Man, I don't know, dude.
Tyreek is awesome, though. I do wish he could have played healthy the last 4 games, and he would have had 2,100 yards or something.
Yeah.
I'll just say this one thing. I know that y'all have seen this, but it's true. Lamar is not top 5 in anything. Anything. Passing yards, completion percentage, passer rating, touchdown, nothing. He's not top 5 in anything. I get he's on the Ravens. They're the best team. He's the quarterback. He's been playing good. It's just a year where there's no one else that's really stepped up besides Brock Purdy. But you can't give it to Brock Purdy because he just had that awful, awful game. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be Lamar,
yeah,
but
kind of like the
I don't-
Heisman race this year. You know, it's kind of gone back and forth between 5 dudes all year. Like no one, like people only really stepped up and like came out because other dudes kind of fell off. Right? You had Caleb Williams fall off
in the last week too.
Yeah,
It-
yeah.
Hear me out here. Hear me out. Dak goes out, throws for 415, 5 tuds. Can he get back in it so I can win my prop bet?
Yeah. I think
Uh,
I think Lamar's got it unlocked since he's not playing. I mean,
I know.
it's not like he can go and have
Like Coop says, he should be playing. Dak's playing. He should be the MVP, man.
Dak's playing because they don't have the division clinched yet, like the
Yeah.
Ravens.
And he better play good because it's not good.
Well, you're gonna like. I mean, I think Lamar's gonna win it too. I mean, I've said all year that McCaffrey should, but when people are talking about Tyreek Hill, right, and his numbers he's put up and what he's done for that team, I got one for you that Big Boy's gonna like. Why not CD? What the Cowboys would probably have two less wins if CD was not on that team. I mean, his stats are not too far behind Hill now, right?
Yeah.
And there's no one else on the Cowboys offense that jumps out the roof that's going to be able to carry their passing game like he does.
The second half of this season, he has had some games, man. Like,
See, that's why I was gonna say the first half he was kind of mediocre, trying to find himself, again. But
I think they were trying to find him. They weren't using him.
Exactly. And then the second half, they figured out their scheme with him, and he's been going off, man. It's ridiculous.
No doubt.
You could argue CD being offensive player of the year, maybe, but
Yeah.
there's a few players there, dude. There's
Yeah.
Lamar. Yes. So
I mean,
And as a receiver, you'd have to have a year like Hill was having. I mean, yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean,
if Tyreek, if he had stayed healthy, dude, he may have broken all the records. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that being like I mean, if CD would have, like you said, done what he's done the second half all year, I mean, he very well could have been up there.
And maybe they beat the Cardinals. Still can't believe that. Hey, Cardinals helped us out though, man.
Yeah. Hey, Cardinals' two biggest wins all year, man.
Yeah.
Eagles and Cowboys.
Yeah.
scrappy team.
Insane. Well, with that being said, those were, of course, our MVPs of the year. But now we're going to go to everyone's favorite, Kobe's locks of the weekend. But before we get to that, we're going to show you our big board of games. Just like we always do. There's the games we're picking from this week, packed weekend, 2 Saturday games. We don't have enough room to fit both of them, so we don't got the first one, which is fine, right? We don't care about the Ravens backup quarterback playing. But then our picks, and there's a lot of variety on these boys, and it's a big weekend on the NFL records. I'll just tell you all that right now. I'm not going to tell you.
Well, that's not good because I didn't do my research like I should have, and I just did these this morning because you said I need them in, and I did not even look and see who's sitting. And so it is going to be a straight luck shoot if I have a good week. I'll be honest with you, boys.
Here's the big thing.
I've been working my ass off, and I did not have time to look at anything.
I noticed that you picked your Cowboys for the first time in a while, and that's going to be bad luck. So I'm going to call it right now. They get upset. It's because Big Boy picked the boys. So
they might.
So I'm just saying.
Okay, who's your lock?
We kind of talked about it a little bit. I got the Seahawks only -2.5 versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals just had a fluke win against the Eagles, who's honestly not good in my opinion. So DK's going off this week. I'm going to go Seahawks -2.5 against the Cardinals.
All right, Big Boy.
I like the Buccaneers -4.5 and the Raiders. I like the Raiders too. I think they're going to fight to the end. I think the Broncos are kind of just whatever.
Raiders are a good one. I like. I was going to go with the Falcons. We talked about it earlier. The Falcons are always like a team where they're good one week, shitty next week. They were shitty last week, good the week before that.
Saints are going to win
this week. This week, I think the Falcons are going to come out and win. But then I also like the Bears to just destroy Green Bay's hearts and rip their hopes out of the playoff hunt because Green Bay's got to win that game to have a chance. I don't know if they automatically get in if they win, but I know they have to win to have a chance. And the Bears, we know, don't have any shot. They already locked up the #1 pick with Carolina's record, but I like the Bears to go in there and ruin some Green Bay's families on this new year. Kobe, what locks you got for us?
Cade,
Yes.
I love both of those picks, especially the Falcons one. Everything you said, man, is spot on. I feel like they're always that team that upsets teams that need games to win, that have to win for playoff. I feel like the Falcons are always those assholes. Like, God, we got to play the Falcons. I'm taking the Falcons to win. And I also agree. I'm taking Chicago, man. But when I play the week, I have Pittsburgh -4. They have a lot to play for.
Yep.
The Ravens, that backup's not bad, but there's times where he plays bad. And this could be one of those times because the Steelers will be playing hard and have all their starters in. And I love this. Have it -4. So
Are the Ravens sitting Queen and they're anybody on defense?
I have no idea. I just if they are, they are. If not, I still love Pittsburgh, man. I just think they really have a lot to it. I don't see why the Ravens would play them. Like if you're playing, yeah,
especially Queen and Smith, and I
you're
wouldn't.
star players. I mean, you have no reason to play.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason they would want is if they truly hate the Steelers and that rival, and they don't want them.
Yeah, but you know how you do something better is win a Super Bowl, and you know, I just, or like you said, they're going after their money. I always wonder, like, you know, I understand if you're the guard and you know you or you know just a position who's not big time, but like Travis Kelce's deal, it's not for a bonus, but. You know, let's say if it was, do you think the owners ever like, dude, don't worry, I got it. We'll give it to you.
I guarantee it.
You got to. The star players, you got to. Yeah, I mean, just like, come on, don't worry about it.
Oh, except for the Cardinals, because I've heard stories where they make their players pay for like all their shit. Like they pay
like their food. Like they literally have to pay for their food.
So I don't think the Cardinals owner is doing something like that, but I'm sure a lot of the owners are.
Sorry, Larry Fitzgerald. Look, man.
Sorry, dude,
you owe us $17,000 for all that food this year, so we're gonna need that check by Monday. Like, what the fuck? I'm Larry Fitzgerald, man.
That's awful.
Yeah.
I saw a thing that JJ was talking about it on Pat's show 2 days ago, and how he knew a couple of the dudes who needed like 75% snaps.
And they sat him
here, and they sat him, and like he literally only needed like, so I can't remember who the player was, but he needed like 2 more snaps in the last game, and they pulled him. So
it was yeah, and they said he swore the coach didn't know. Like the coach to this day, the position coach.
Yeah.
Now the head coach might have known. The position coach wouldn't do that. The position coach, no, I don't think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, I would be mad about that.
And these bonuses are we're not talking about a little $2,000 bonus, man. We're talking about $1 million, $500,000 and stuff.
Yeah.
500,000, 750K.
No, it's a new car for some of these dudes. It's a vacation, you know,
It's a house for some of them, man. That's mortgage.
The freaking house. It's school. It's school for their kids. It's trip. You're crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, did you see old Tyreek Hill's house freaking caught on fire from
his kid
was playing with fire. That would be me.
Little pyro
over there, man.
Yeah.
That was Chris, man. Pyro.
Insane. Well, before we close it out, man, it's been a good one. We always appreciate Kobe coming on for these NFL talks. You know, the next Adam Schefter of the world, if he ever wants to go that route. But any closing thoughts before we go into this weekend and find out who's making those playoffs? You got anything?
No, man, I'm excited for the last week of ball. I'm ready for this playoff ball to happen, man. It's a good time of year, so it should be good.
I got a couple things, man. I want to say There is going to be a white cornerback drafted probably in the first round, and it's going to be the most awesome thing ever. Go Iowa Hawkeyes. Yeah, so that's I'm kind of pumped about that. I do want to know who Kobe likes in the national championship.
Man, I think Michigan. I've been sleeping on them all season, dude. They're actually a really good team. That QB is good. Like them having a good offense and having a good quarterback changed everything. Like, they're a solid, really good team.
So,
Wow.
real quick, but do you think if they win, do you think that's icing on the cake for Harbaugh and he's
Harbaugh's gone.
Do you think he's gone either way?
I think he's gone either way. I think something's coming down.
I don't know where he's going. I think there's a pro team, man. I think there's going to be one. I just don't get it. I don't get the whole Harbaugh hype. I'm sorry. I'll hate. I just don't understand it. He runs a good program for college, but for pro football, man,
He did pretty good at San Francisco, man, while he was there.
That is true.
So, and I think I think he's more of a pro type coach anyways. You know, you don't want to deal with these fucking kids and NIL.
Oh, no.
I don't know, man.
And also Cooper DeJean, man. I agree. I can't wait, Ryan. It's going to be the first white cornerback since
Jason Sehorn.
2003.
Jason Sehorn, man.
All mock drafts of the Texans drafting him. Dude, I would be ecstatic. That
We'll
kid,
get a jersey.
That kid's a stud.
He is.
Play, man. And last thing, real quick. Sorry, boys. D'Amico Ryan's the coach of the year. Lock or no?
Easily.
I like it.
I
like
think
it.
it's 100% if they get in.
No, it doesn't even matter. Like you said, the over-under was 4. They've won 9. So easily locked.
I think it matters in terms of odds to win. I think if we make the playoffs, I think he's probably the favorite.
100% lock if the Texans make the playoffs. If not, I mean, they still got to be up there.
Still should be up there, man. 9 wins, no one.
A lot of times, though, they'll pick a coach who's like a Harbaugh or somebody like that whose record is the best.
Or like a Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell.
Kevin Stefanski, man.
Yeah, Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, too. I mean, they're already clinched.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rub
and Tug got hurt. They went and got Joe Flacco. I mean,
fucking Flacco, dude.
Flacco's him.
Joey Flacco. And he's sitting this week, man.
He is. He is sitting this week.
He's sitting.
Oh, that makes me sick.
Yeah, Ryko, me and you both, man.
Don't get that old man hurt. He got a playoff run to make.
I agree with Cooper now. That shit's so dumb, dude.
Well, that is all the time we had for you today on the Sports Roundtable Trio Edition. The Roundtable family, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Go tell more of your family and friends. I think we're 3 away, unless some have gone up by this time this episode comes out on the fabulous Friday tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Y'all have a great and fabulous Friday. Great weekend of NFL. Do it right. Saturday primetime, Houston Texans, lock it in. Cowboys Sunday, and then big primetime game Sunday night with the Dolphins and the Bills. But don't forget to, of course, like, subscribe. What else, big boy?
Ring that bell and tell your people, man. We need 3 more. 3 people tell 3 people. Kobe, ring that bell. Show me how to ring that bell, Kobe. Come on, ring that bell. One time for your boy.
I did.
Remember, it's not about how much money you got on, or it's not about the score, it's how much money you got on the game.
Exactly.
And we enjoy you tuning in for this shit show we call a podcast, and have a great weekend of sports. And